Hey guys, I'm back from vacation. I had fun in the sun, lots to eat, lots to drink. I don't know, maybe I overdid it. What do you think? Even while I was away, the guys did a great job. They even put out a couple videos while I was gone. If you haven't seen them, check it out. We did North America Arms, and we did the Leslie Bursch update. A couple good videos worth watching. The Bursch update was especially good for Veterans Day. Okay, now I have to show you a couple new variations I'm just really excited about. Hey, as usual, I was just messing with you guys. That was all hair and makeup. We have a green room here where I have a team of people who work nonstop trying to make me look better, and so they were able to use makeup to create that tan effect. But I'm glad to be back, and as it turned out, when I was gone, a couple of guns came in that I came back, started to research, and as I researched these guns, it took me down a bunny trail that, well, I just made some interesting discoveries. Now, these are both conjecture guns. These are variations never seen before. I'm doing a lot of conjecture. You guys, I love your input. I learn from you. I say this all the time. Respectful comments are deeply appreciated. Calling me a dumbass is not helpful. But I'm going to give you my conjecture on two guns. First is a PPK. Walther PPK, and the second is a Luftwaffe Femaru. So let's take a look at these two guns. The first gun that came in is this Walther PPK in a very cool shoulder holster. This, of course, goes over your shoulder. So whoever carried it as a shoulder piece. And this looks all period correct. I'll say more about the holster in a little bit, but it does come with a PPK that fits very, very well. And we're going to talk about this gun. And also, this is a wartime, actually a pre-war magazine, Walther banner only. This gun from serial number was made in 1935. But let's take a look over my shoulder and I'll show you what's unique about this gun. Okay, I'll start with the left-hand side. You see the factory logo, high polish finish, again, 1935. You see the 90-degree safety, which is was the early variation. Later they went to a 60-degree safety, and that was to help with the chipping of the grip. But you guys already know all that. You Walther guys love my Walther videos, and I'm going to show you a potentially new variation yet undiscovered until now. This is the front strap, very nice, comes with a finger extension magazine, and yes, it's Walther banner only, so correct for 1935. Everything's checking out, but here's the money shot, which you guys just love it when I show you the money shot. This is it. There's the serial number, 989 and then 855 with a Star of David and a little circle inside. That's the perplexing part. Now, I had one 10 years ago. In 2012, I got one, and I have a Jewish customer who loves Walthers, and he's a Walther buyer, and I called him up and said, I have no idea what this means, but it looks like a Star of David. Here's a better close-up of just the marking. And I called him up and said, would you be interested? He said, what do you think it means? I said, well, there's no way they were selling guns to Israel. I realized that Israel was not even a country then, but there was Palestinians, and there were a lot of Jewish people, and there was some arms sales to the Palestinians. But I said, there's no way they put a Star of David. The point is, I saw one 10 years ago, and it had the same star. So that registered with me. I looked up the serial number, and it was within maybe 50 serial numbers of this one. So again, close proximity, had the Star of David on it. It's actually not a Star of David, it's a signal star. Because it also reminded me of, well, here, check out this video. So the only thing in here is more flare boxes. I do want to make a point about these flare boxes. These are a lot cheaper. They do have flares in them. But notice the maker emblem. Isn't that ironic? Maybe some of you noticed when I showed them before. It struck me right away. That's the Star of David. And when I looked it up, it's the company logo. But how about that irony? September of 1941, Star of David is their company logo. The similarities here are seem more than coincidental. First of all, 1935, Walther was making flare pistols. Here's one from 1935. It's got the Walther banner on it. It's a flare pistol. So Walther was already involved in the flare business. This company, you see the name on the top of the cover, and it basically says Star Signal Cartridge. So I believe the company was Star, and the Star stood for the star burst that they would use with the flares. And the German army not only used these for flares, but they also used them for smoke. And there is a flare pistol with a Z on it that's rifled, and they used it for grenades. So they used flare pistols a lot, and there was a company, the Star Company, that made the signal cartridges. So while it might be conjecture, but here's a pretty logical conclusion I came to. It is a factory logo. Again, the stamp, the star, looks like it was done at the factory. Two reasons. One, I found 7 of them in my database, and searching through several sources, I found 7 recorded serial numbers, all in the same range. And here's the serial range. So basically, there's a span of 95. They all, so basically, let's say there's a contract of 100 guns, all of them with the star on it. It had to be a factory order, meaning if somebody just said, would you pull together a group of guns and we'll take them to our factory, they wouldn't be in sequential order, in my opinion. So they ordered probably about 100. I documented 7 known guns in a serial range of 95 guns. And secondly, it looks like the star is done and blued over just like the serial number. So again, further evidence that the star was stamped in the factory, which makes this a factory variation potentially. I'm not prepared to say we found a new variation, but I'm pretty excited about it. I'd love to hear from all of you if you have one in this serial range that is not does not have the star. That's important information. And of course, if you have another one with the star, I'm theorizing that was a contract for factory guards the factory ordered 100. It was like a munitions plant during the war. Well, at least starting in 1935, which is before the war, munitions plant ordered 100 guns for the factory guards. Further evidence of that, by the way, I thought, well, there's no way to say that this holster is the original holster. But in fact, if you look in the back, this just looks like smudge marks. But it seems to me to be a 2-digit white paint, which again, with factory guards, and you see this even in the United States where the butt of the rifle will have white paint, what we call rack numbers. I believe this could be the original holster because that could be a rack number. Now I know I like to deal in fact only, and you guys like it when I know what I'm talking about, but in this case, I'm just letting you know. I think this is worth sharing with you and getting feedback. Are there more out there within this serial range? And by the way, I found none outside this serial range, so that's further evidence. If somebody was just randomly buying pistols and whacking that star on it, and now that I've done this video, some people will try that. But there are none outside of this serial range that I am publishing now on this video. So I think it's really cool. I'm excited about it. I'm going to hold on to this one. My friend has another one, and if you have one, please let me know. Okay, this is the second gun that came in while I was away. And if you thought that last one was a stretch, you're going to hate this one because I feel pretty confident in that last conjecture. This one I'm not at all confident, but I just love the history of it, and I think you're going to learn something because researching this, I went down some bunny trails and I found out all kinds of information I never knew before. But of course, this is a Femaru. Most of you recognize the holster right away, and if you don't recognize the holster, you certainly recognize the gun. I did a video about a year ago where I talked about Third Reich pistols that are still available for under $1,000. Now, pretty much every one of those pistols are over $1,000 because, as most of you know, inflation has hit our business. Collectible market is through the roof, and that has to do with all collectibles, cars, paintings, antiques, and guns in particular. Prices are all up, and this is certainly no longer available under $1,000, but it would have been a good investment if you had watched my video and gone out and bought a few. But there's only 2 variations that are made in the World War II era, and that would be the 41, and there was 30,000 that went to the Luftwaffe. All of these were Luftwaffe contract, and that is documented because the records in the Femaru factory were not destroyed, unlike the Walther factory. These records were preserved. So we have record of 30,000 went to the Luftwaffe in 41, 30,000 went to the Luftwaffe in 43. They actually ordered 60,000, but the war ended before they fulfilled the second batch. So this is a Femaru. Take a look over my shoulder. This one has a beautiful finish. I'd rate this at least 95%. And you can see JHV, that's the factory code for the Hungarian Femaru production. Factory code and year. Serial number here and here are matching, and then the Waffen proof here. Also on the barrel, there's a Waffen proof. The other side of the gun. It reminds me a little bit of a miniature 1911, and for that reason, I find these to be just very enjoyable to shoot. The wooden grips and the unique magazine. It does have a lot of the bottom release, like even the P38. There's nothing to hold on to, so when you pop this, you actually have like a little finger extension. I find that to be very convenient. And this would be hard to read, but right in here, it is a matching serial number. These are fairly crudely stamped, and the Hungarian ones were not numbered. In other words, under the Hungarian army distribution, the magazines were not numbered there, but under the Nazi occupation, they did number the magazine, and of course they added the Waffen stamp as well. This comes in 7.65, which is also 32 caliber, and this is the original holster. There is a spare mag. It is numbered, so we know it's World War II era, Nazi era, but this one is not matching. They have Model 37 because this is the Model 37. You can see Model 37 and Model 37, and you see the caliber. And on the back of the holster, this holster is just incredibly nice. This is where we get to the interesting part. So I see JSD, which is the maker of the holster. We do see 1942, and that's the Luftwaffe acceptance stamp. So I've seen this all before. This is standard catalog, straight from the book kind of information. Nothing unusual other than it's just a beautiful piece and would sell in seconds off of my website. But then we see the H75. I've never seen that before, and that's a piece I thought, I wonder what that means. I have no idea what that means. Nothing even comes to mind. Is there a possibility that I could find like a Luftwaffe unit that it went to? So I went ahead and Googled H75. So here's what I found. And again, this is a lot of conjecture. I think it's really cool. I'm certainly not selling this as a special unit from the Luftwaffe. But when you Google Luftwaffe and H75 together, actually H75 will bring you a lot of options. But one of them is the Curtiss Hawk Model 75. So the H75 is Hawk 75. Made by Curtiss. Now, this could be a dead end because it says they were made in the late 30s, early 40s, and it was an American plane. So why would the Luftwaffe have an American plane? That's the interesting part. So it turns out that, of course, France and England were gearing up. Before the war, the United States was certain we were going to stay out of it, but we did sell armaments to, obviously, the British and the French. And one of the things we did, we sold, before the war started, before the hostilities began, we sold 316 Hawk 75s to France. They were delivered, and when the war started, as it turns out, there was a couple French aces that flew the H-75. They loved the aircraft, the design. They said it was really smooth, and it was real easy to fly. And the first Allied kill of the war was a French pilot with an H-75 shooting down a Messerschmitt in late September of 1939. So that was the first Allied victory in the air, was with an H-75. Now, these were all captured by the Germans when they took over France, and also Norway. I believe they ordered about 30. I'm not sure how many were delivered, but 19 were captured when the Germans occupied Norway. So the combination of those two occupied countries, the Germans had literally hundreds of the Hawk 75s. So the Germans were able to put together a unit of fighter pilots who flew these jets. And they put them in their own unit. They also gave 44 to the Finland Air Force, and the Finns used it, the Finnish Air Force used it against the Soviets also in World War II. Basically, the Germans were looking for help in fighting the Soviets and were happy to give 44 of the planes to Finland. Now, Finland didn't call it the Hawk. They called it Sweetheart. Literally, they gave it a nickname called Sweetheart because they found that it was such a smooth plane to fly. So both the Finnish Air Force and the Luftwaffe flew H-75s that were captured in Europe in early part of World War II, and they were used certainly all the way through the war, including 1942. So 42, does this mean that this went to a unit that flew the H-75? I can't say that. I just found it to be interesting history, an interesting holster. Again, I'm not sure what to make of it. I'm, not making any wild claims, but I would love to hear from you guys. Have any of you seen one of these before? Or do you have any other information about a Luftwaffe unit flying the Hawk 75? Wow, I'm so glad I came back to work. This is exciting. You watch this channel and you really never know what you're going to get.
You never know what you're going to get.
And that's why we love this channel. I love this channel. That's why we love this channel so much. Hey, thanks for watching. No vacations for a long time, but the holidays are coming, so stay tuned. I might become the Gun Santa again.